Hi everyone, it's Louise and Joe, and today we're going to have a little discussion about item 38, which is the testing that was done on the gun safe at the Crowley home. Are you all right, Joe?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
That's good. Right, I'm just going to bring up a couple of clips so that we've got a starting point so that people know what we're talking about. So unfortunately, we are going to have to listen to, I hate to say it, Hot Fans Only, number 2. But I know, bless, that's all I can say. From our number 1 fans.
No.
Okay, can you see the screen, Joe?
Yep, I got it.
Okay, I'm going to click play. Let me know if you can hear it, okay?
David Crowley guilty. All right, sum it up for me.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, my, I told you my
because
piece is
I
very
can
sensitive.
sum it up for everybody in 2 or 3 minutes. Can you do that too? Can these retards do that too? No, you can't.
Jeez.
So yeah, that's what Greg seems to think of people who disagree with him. I'll just stop the screen share a minute. Yeah, considering. Go on, sorry, Joe. You go ahead.
That he says that, and that tends to cover everyone. Everybody that doesn't agree with him, any professionals that say something different than what he thinks, they're all considered retards by him, and he says it a lot.
He does. It seems to be his little kind of get out clause, which is sad, really. All things considered, you know, there's no need to be so rude about people.
I find it very childish, and if he has some facts to back himself up, he wouldn't have to use that term. He could just show his facts, and people would see them, and they would be swayed. But he hasn't shown anything.
No.
There is absolutely nothing he's shown to prove that David is innocent. So the only thing he has to fall back on is everybody's retarded but him.
Yeah, and you know, and it's just a very feeble attempt at an insult, and to be so sort of derogatory and say there's, you know, people who have got learning difficulties or disabilities, they're no less of a person, but obviously in Greg's Christian eyes they are. But that says more about Greg than it does anybody else.
Right. Yes, it does.
Right, I think this is where we want to be.
That good.
Yeah.
And then why did he leave other blood around the house? Like he just, it's weird.
Greg, I sent those screenshots to your email.
Yeah, I'm trying to look. So I got 2. So I got the low velocity impact, right?
No.
No.
Let's see. You should have.
Oh.
If you put it up, I can help you. There should be like one that's low impact, and then I sent you a couple examples of medium, and 1, 2.
I got a high.
Yeah, and if you put them on the screen, I can tell you exactly what they are. And anybody can Google these and
Yeah, that'll be really curious to see this. And the safe too, that's the safe that we're looking at there, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
yes.
Yeah. And it was only Kamel's prints on that safe, correct?
Correct.
That's
yes.
Incorrect. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Nobody finds that weird. Like, like David's the one that did all of this, but his wife is the one that has the prints opening the safe.
Yeah, it's all good.
It is weird.
I just, yeah, like that's, I'm kind of looking at my notes here. I'm kind of like flipping just stuff that I wrote down that while I was going through the reports that I found really strange. And that was something that I definitely put a circle around, was if David did it, why are her prints on the safe and not his?
Yep,
Okay, so the
I
safe
totally agree. Yep.
is, what is the number for the safe? Push keys, gun safe 38.
I'm just adding all of these slides. They may not be in order, Sophia, so you have to
Yeah,
be out here. Once I get these here.
It always amazes me how quick Sophia can just get to
I know.
certain parts of the evidence. Like, I thought I did a great job, but Sophia's like, oh, let me just, that number, let me just bring it up. And it's like, boop.
Got it. Right. She's like, yeah.
So
What
she's
you
right on the
need.
safe. Look,
Sounds like she's struggling a bit to me.
wait, let me double check.
Say again, Joe. Joe, did you say something?
That number again.
I wish there was an easier way that I could do this, but I'm doing this the old-fashioned way.
38.
I'm pretty sure it's just her prints on it from what I remember, because I have it circled. So,
Mixture of 2 or more individuals. The major
okay.
DNA profile indicated as female, not just
Okay,
Camille. And
okay.
So 2 or more.
then it says major profile does not match David or Rania. That just means when the DNA came out, it matched Camille's profile, but not David and
Right.
So this is where it just gets ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, not David and Rania's. So then,
That's big to me.
and then further down, because they then were running even more tests, since David Crowley and Rania cannot be excluded, it just means that their alleles showed up in the results,
Right.
but because they're related, they couldn't exclude one or the other because similar alleles had shown up.
Right. And then
Now,
Okay.
go on. You
I was gonna say
start.
explain to me, because what she said doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it shouldn't make any sense because it's a load of made up rubbish.
And I know they're saying there's
Right.
2 or more in the mixture, and they can't exclude Rainey. And explain it. You know more about this than I do.
Well, let me just bring up the report. Hold on a second. Hold on.
I would also expect.
Need to get off this. Right. So first of all, Rick is saying that Kamel's prints were on the gun safe. Did you hear that too? Yeah?
Yes.
So straight off, Sophia and Greg, they said correct. But that's incorrect because there isn't anything to do with the latent prints on the gun safe being connected to Kamel. It's that the DNA test that they took, item 38, which you saw in their video, there was 38 on the gun safe, and it clearly says mixture of 2 or more individuals. Then it says major DNA profile indicated as female matches Kamel Razul Crowley. The major profile doesn't match David or Rani, which it won't because the major profile is Kamel. The probability of selecting an unrelated individual at random from the general population having a DNA profile that would match this major profile of Kamel is approximately 1 in 11 billion. David and Rani can't be excluded from being possible contributors to the mixture. So Kamel's the major contributor in that swab, but they can't rule out David or Rani's blood being the other contributor of the mixture of 2 or more individuals. So 2 or more, 2, you've got Kamel for definite, and then potentially David, or potentially Rani, or potentially all the 3 of them, because 2 or more, there's at least 2, but there could be another one, which would be 3 of them. So that's pretty simple. It's straightforward. It's in black and white on the report.
But they all of them show that they're related some way.
Yeah, but then being kind of related is irrelevant to the whole thing, because the investigators and the scientists and the analysis, they know what they're looking for, you know, so all they're saying is that they can't rule them out, but Kamel is the major contributor. And then the last bullet point on this, item 38, 5 of the 13 loci suitable for comparisons met the BCA criteria for conducting statistical calculations. So that's when they're saying the approximately 1 in 11 billion, or approximately 97.999%. That's the statistical calculations. It's nothing to do with the actual quality of the sample that was taken.
Right.
And the results of it, that has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's just that they're saying that the math and the markers are there for them to do the math.
So basically, the mixtures that they have could only belong to the 3 in the house. There's no outside source from, you know, say an assailant with, you know, kindergarten art project paintings, and or anything like that. So
there's
I mean,
nobody else, and nobody else is.
Yeah.
There's only one major profile on everything that is swabbed. Any other DNA is a contributor, aka a minor. There's
right.
There's no part in that report where it says an unidentified major profile has been found. So why they keep saying that there's like this DNA, you know, like you could get a letter come in the mail and they could swab that and your DNA could be on it, and the person that's licked the envelope's DNA will be on it, and the postal person who's handed it to you, their DNA could be on it. Does that mean that they've murdered you?
No.
You know, but if there was like loads and they were the major contributor to the sample, and they were popping up on all the major sort of apparatus, if you like, the gun, the bullets, their DNA was popping up on all these things that were significant, then
and see, that's what I was trying to kind of understand with the DNA. You've got a mixture of 3 people. It shows basically that they're all similar enough that they know they come from these 3 people, but they don't have all the markers to identify them because it's a mixture. And and that's what they're saying. There's no outside DNA, nobody else. It came from these three people, all these mixtures, all of them together.
Yeah, and like there's items that are around your home that if you unless you keep a sterile home and you never let anybody touch anything, then other people's DNA will innocently be on things in your house. Like if you have friends over at the weekend and you ask them to write down a recommendation for, I don't know, a gardener, then you give them a pad and paper and they write that recommendation down, then DNA from them, whether it's like from chewing on a pen and putting saliva on it, or not washing their hands when they've been in the toilet, or touching their mouth, and then they're touching your pen and your paper, their DNA will be on that. But that's like explainable. It's innocent. It doesn't mean that if something was to occur at your house that automatically they're guilty of murdering you, because it's a pen, it's paper, people share pens and papers. That's normal and it's part of life. But if their DNA was on a knife and you was found dead with stab wounds, then because they've handled the murder weapon and their DNA is on that murder weapon, then you are bringing suspicion in. But if it was that you'd had a barbecue and everybody had left, but you hadn't washed up and someone stabbed you with a knife that somebody had been using, then their DNA would be on that, but they weren't the ones that stabbed you, but somebody else's DNA would also be on that because it's the murder weapon.
Right.
It's all about context of things. You can't charge somebody with murder because their DNA is on a pen in an office. But if there's incriminating evidence on murder weapons and things to, like, I don't know, a set of keys, if they've used keys to get in your house, and, then it's about adding them all up and making a case. It's not just reliant upon one little thing. So like with the bullet that had Ronnie's DNA on, that wasn't found until after the case had been, or the scene had been cleared from being a crime scene and was now signed off and ready to be cleaned up. And the cleanup crew go in and no one was there, so nobody knows like how much PPE they were wearing or weren't wearing, or if they wore it for the first part of the cleanup and not for the second as they started to sort of work through things. Nobody knows because nobody was there. You've got photos from the BCA that show that there are investigators walking around that don't have like hair caps on, don't have their arms covered. They're not wearing like the white hazmat things or anything, the disposable ones to protect their clothing. So they could be shedding skin cells and goodness knows what else. And like I say, because Ronnie's bullet was found after the scene had gone from crime scene to clean up, people who are going in there with the intention of cleaning up, not to preserve evidence. It's just lucky that they did find that bullet, but the contributor to that, because Ronnie was the major contributor, but there was like another that's written as a contributor to the mix. That could be anything from the cleaners to product that the cleaners use, because there's products that can give false readings for things. There's so many variables that just don't get taken into consideration by
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous to make these sweeping statements to try and get more people believing in this story. But as you saw, and people can wind it back and people can go and look at the reports, but it does not say on there. And considering, as Rick said, Sophia and Greg are so good at finding the information, it's just a shame that they gave you duff information and they didn't say, oh, actually, Rick, they're talking about the DNA and not latent prints, they went along with it to mislead him, because that's what they do. But they were talking about DNA and not the latent prints, so they should have,
Right.
been correcting people and clarifying so that people don't get confused.
But that's the thing, they let the misinformation out so they can steer it a certain way. Everybody gets so confused, they're like, oh, whatever. Whatever they say must be true, because I don't want to look into it. And that's one thing that I've been saying lately. I encourage everybody to research all these things. Don't take our word for it, don't take their word for it, research it yourself and see, because if we're retards, as Greg says, then obviously maybe we don't know what we're doing. So I implore you to go and look at what they say, research it, see if it's true, and then do the same with what we have. That way you have no doubts for yourself.
Exactly. We've never said, just read the reports, it will make it, everything will make sense. We've never said that. We've said, read the reports, because then you'll have more of an understanding to be able to discuss things in more detail. But if you don't read the reports and we're making references to things, you won't have an understanding as to why we're saying what we're saying. That's all that's ever been about. But as per usual, it gets twisted. But the facts are the facts, and the facts and the evidence is there that those are the people who are misleading everybody into thinking that things are different to what they actually are. And of course, if you was to go along with that and think that Kamel's been leaving bloody prints, you are going to come up with a completely different narrative, a wrong one. So stick to the research, check it out for yourself, listen to both sides and come up with your own conclusions. But it doesn't hurt to ask questions. It doesn't hurt to go and ask actual experts that have got certifications, and they are university lecturers. Go and ask professionals. Don't just take somebody's word for it.
And on our side, we're more than happy to share our research, the things we found, experts we've talked to. We have no problem showing you our sources. We don't just say, well, my friend said, and she's a corner or whatever.
Exactly. But at the same token, don't expect to have minimal conversation with us through email and expect us to send you 7 years worth of research.
Exactly. Yeah. But
on that note, we will end it here, and then we will get on with our next project, and we will see you all soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.